Hello and welcome to a special Team Principal press conference. I'm Naomi Schiff, joined by Will Buxton, and we're here with the team principals from Konnersport, Red Bull and Ferrari who need no introduction. As we head into the final race of the season, Konnersport has already secured the Constructors' Championship, but there's still plenty at stake with valuable finishing positions and prize money that can support team development in the off-season. I just wanted to start out with Casper. Congratulations for your team's hard work this season. Is there any more information the team can share about the limitations on testing? What's going on through the team's mind with that ruling from the FIA?
The team has taken responsibility for the decisions that shaped our off-season plans. Several staff members involved have either resigned or been let go, but we've managed to keep those departments running at full capacity with temporary replacements. The team is optimistic about staying competitive when we get back on track at the season opener.
George Russell leads the championship ahead of Lando Norris by 7 points, with Charles Leclerc just behind to steal the championship if they both crash out. What has been going through the minds of your drivers leading up to this weekend?
Honestly, the stress has been there since Baku when Jackson and Russell both retired. It kept the door open for both Norris and Leclerc to put pressure on the Konnersport drivers. But this is a sport where you're under pressure all the time, so the stress doesn't really get to a driver in a way you think it would.
I do have to agree on that, especially with Leclerc being with Ferrari for a few years now. The pressure is one thing that can fuel a driver's actions out on track, and with how these drivers have been all season, there's no telling what could happen between the three of them this weekend.
Let's talk about the progressions throughout the season that have led to the current standings. All three of your teams have faced crucial retirements that have either impacted your own chances or those of other teams in the championship. There's also been some noticeable garage work during the first practice. Casper, we saw George spending the most time in the garage during that session. What's going on there?
The team is simply trying to work out some issues with the car's battery recharge rate. Instead of taking the component penalty, we're choosing to tough it out in order to keep George in the championship fight. That does put him at risk of an early retirement, but he's been able to manage with the issues for the last few races, so there shouldn't be too much worry there.
The biggest worry I see is that it's the final race. You know, there's only so many laps till that checkered flag is thrown, and there's so much time till then that your drivers could make mistakes, a slip up here and there, or even a move that could end their race in an instant. There's always someone who thinks they can go for that one move and it ends up costing them the championship. We've seen this a lot with Verstappen, and we hope to not see any dirty driving like earlier in the season. What precautions have been set in place for your drivers to ensure they don't lose out on that championship trophy?
There's only so much we can do as teams for our drivers, and whether it's the team principal, the driver's race engineer, or even their own teammates, we can tell them to play it safe or avoid rash decisions. But once they're out on the track, it's their call. If the opportunity is there, they know the risks and understand how much of an opening is worth going for before it turns bad. And in the end, it's on them. And sometimes the teams are just part of the audience at that point.
Some very good conversations going on about what could happen on the final Sunday of racing for this season. Again, my name is Naomi Schiff, here with Will Buxton, Casper Ackermann, Christian Horner and Fred Vasseur as we wrap up the final team principal press conference of the 2026 season. Let's let these gentlemen get on to FP2.
It's the final chapter of the season then here at the spectacular Yas Marina circuit. It's a race where the pulse hitter failed to finish in 3 of the first 4 events. A front row start here is by no means a guarantee of victory. We go into battle once more then as we get underway at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. The drivers will be racing here at Yas Marina circuit through 21 corners and a lap distance of around 3.4 miles. There are a few opportunities to pass with long straights and DRS zones in 2 places, turns 8 and 11. Plenty of close racing then, plenty of speed and plenty of drama to be found in the laps ahead. It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. What a qualifying yesterday for George Russell. He'll start today's race from pole position, edging out Lando Norris, who'll start from P2. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Jackson, Mayer, Franco Colapinto and Behrman, Leclerc, Stroll, Antonelli and Fernando Alonso, Albon, Gasly, Gabriel Bortoleto, Doohan, Hadjar, Aaron, Liam Lawson and Esteban Ocon, Sainz, Hulkenberg, Pepe Marti and Zayn Maloney rounds off the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track. Welcome to the commentary box. I'm Alex Jakes. Alongside me, a real authority on all things motor racing. It's a warm welcome back to Anthony Davidson. So this is everything they've worked for, a career-defining day. They could be the champion of the world at the end of this one. What would that mean to them?
Absolutely. The pressure will be immense on your shoulders. Both drivers, whoever it is fighting for the World Championship here, comes down to this one moment. You against the others that can take that title away from you. You've got to fight because it's got to be your day.
So as the formation lap gets underway for the last time this season, every driver will be wanting to make sure that they leave a lasting impression on a fabulous season and go out in a winning fashion. They're almost ready to take the start of the race as the cars take their positions on the grid, with the drivers and teams making their final preparations.
All right, here we are, George Russell on the front row for the final race of the season. We were driving as George Russell, and we're going to have the advantage through the first corner. We have Jackson directly behind us, and then the Mercedes of, I believe that was Kimi Antonelli. And then the Alpine in P5, an Alpine in P5 in Abu Dhabi for the last race of the season. As we see the last of the cars pulling up to the grid here as the sun goes down. Race start. 5 red lights are coming on. That was Callie Mayer in the Mercedes in P4. And then Colapinto P5. 5 red lights are off. And we're off to a decent start. Already, no, we're side by side coming into turn 1 as the audio cuts out there. And Norris had to yield to the inside of the corner, so we're going to be pushing ahead, but he's still going to be right there in the tow. As we see Jackson and Mayer side by side coming into turn 5, down the first straight. We see the first attempt at the overtake from Norris. The longest part of this track in a straight line as he has the inside of turn 6. We're coming out ahead of turn 7, so he's going to have another attempt to come at us before turn 9. He's already a half second back. Jackson still holding on to P3. You see Russell and Norris up ahead as Mayer has the outside line. I believe all but one driver on the medium tires. I believe it's Alonso on the hard tires from the start of this race, as we see Jackson behind Mayer now. Leclerc in the Ferrari in P6. Colapinto now down to P7. As this episode is basically going to be pretty much between Russell and Norris, as the first lap of this final race of the season is already over with. We're going to be moving on to the next little bit of action, which is lap 2, respectively. Out of turn 5, Norris gets a good tow. DRS this time around with extra battery. We're trying to defend with battery. You saw the light go on there momentarily as we push him into the inside of the main, that sector 2 straight. Side by side coming into turn 6 and 7. And at this point, I did not want to get caught up with him in that chicane every single lap. You see, we're trying to save battery as we're coming into turn 9. Norris going to be holding the outside line, but we managed to hold on to our position. As we see Antonelli back in P9, making a position on a Stroll. I don't think we've gone through the grid quite yet. So we're looking at some of the other teams now. Gasly P7, Bortoleto P11 in the Ferrari, Albon and Hadjar in the Williams just outside of the points. And then Alonso P14, his teammate Stroll there sitting in P10. So on board with Callie Mayer behind Jackson. So the top 6 is starting to pull away. Norris and Russell in the world of their own. As we start on lap 3, and it's going to be the same situation. We're going to be on board with Norris for a lot of these battles to see if he can make that overtake. We're going to be defending into turn 5. We haven't used much, we haven't conserved much battery yet, as we're going to be doing that more towards the chicane. Norris with DRS and plenty of battery to make an overtake down this straight. And it's going to be a lot of rinse and repeat throughout this race. Almost some contact there as we hold the outside line into turn 6 and then turn 7. Norris having to try yet again, coming down the second half of sector 2 into turn 9. Can we hold on to this position yet again? 3 laps, and it's been the same resolve every time around. You can see that we're restoring. We're conserving battery. Use sector 3 to use in sector 2. And it's going to be the same situation. Lap 4 on board with Norris. This time he's a little bit closer. And to see if he can make that overtake and hold on to that position for P1, as Callie Mayer still about just over a second behind this battle, as Jackson's right up there behind her. See, Jackson made the move down sector 2's between 5 and 6. We're side by side coming out of turn 7. And I don't know, it's going to be Russell and Norris, and then Jackson's right here in the mix coming up to turn 9. It might be 3 wide. No, it's going to be Russell ahead of Jackson. Jackson made a move on Norris coming out of the chicane and coming down that second DRS zone. So on board with Norris now. He's down to P3 with Callie Mayer right on his gearbox. Leclerc P5, Behrman P6, Gasly P7. Not very many position changes outside of the top 5. Moving on to lap 5, sector 2. This time Jackson trying to make a move on Russell. You can see Russell is still conserving that battery, and the train between P1 and P6 has just, I don't know if it was me or if it was Norris piling everybody up, but that's going to be the move for P1 from Jackson on Russell, and we're not really going to fight it. We're just going to let it happen. Jackson's position in this championship, in this race, does not really matter for us, as we see Norris battling Leclerc on the timing table, and the battle between them really helps us in this matter, because we need to finish either ahead of Norris or at least 2 positions behind Norris. So we can be behind Norris and then 1 other person between us in order for us to win. But any bigger separation than that between us and Norris, that's a Norris championship win. But Jackson and Russell, they're starting to pull away. 2 seconds between Russell and Jackson. We're on board with Behrman, putting pressure on his own teammate in sector 2, as we're already to lap 9 of 29. You can see on the inside, we see the Mercedes of Mayer making a move. They're going to be side by side as we're on board with Behrman. He's still trying to make a move. Mayer holds on to her position. Norris down to P5. Behrman moving on the inside before turn 9. He's going to be pushing Norris down yet another position. And then Gasly and Bortoletto behind them are going for positions as well. So Norris is not looking good right now. He is losing pace, as Jackson is leading 1.5 seconds ahead of George Russell. And then Leclerc, the Ferrari, about 2 seconds back as well. So we move on to lap 13 on board with Leclerc. He had made his move on Callie Mayer so many laps ago. You can see Russell still conserving that battery. That's going to be time for the pit window pretty much, as we're on board with Leclerc, and that's what he's going to be pretty much doing. He's going to be coming in off of these medium tires. We're going to see if anybody else comes in behind him. And I don't know if you know, excuse me, I'm yawning. I don't know if you noticed, but the back end of George Russell's car had stepped out. We see, let's see, that's Leclerc, that is Callie Mayer, that's Lando Norris coming in. I believe Pierre Gasly as well. I could be wrong. That's going to be the Gulf Williams of, I believe, Albon, yes, that's going to be Gasly in the pits as well. And the two Alpines, Colapinto already dropping down outside of the points. Jackson leading Russell by 3.2 now at this point of the race. Halfway through lap 14 for Jackson as he's coming through the chicane. And I don't know what it is about that angle, but it makes that chicane a lot bigger than it feels like it is. But you see Russell 3.5 seconds, and the gap is increasing because we're going for a two-stop. We are going to lap. We're going to pit a lap after Norris to try to counteract his pit strategy. As we're actually on board with Ocon, and I completely forgot about it. Paul Aaron retired earlier in the race for an engine failure. That's going to be Esteban Ocon in the same situation there in Sector 3 just after turn 15. This is going to be a double stop for Konnersport, the final race of the season. Hopefully we don't fuck it up. 4.2 seconds between us two, so there should be enough room as long as there are no issues. On board with Jackson, he's coming in. Doesn't look like there's any issues. No, it's going to be the left rear tire is going to have an issue. Russell had to stop and wait. He may lose some valuable positions. It's going to be the left front tire this time for George Russell. So both Konnersport cars having issues with taking tires off. Russell is going to be coming out behind Antonelli in the pits, so that's not going to help his case. We're looking to see where Lando Norris is. He's going to be coming through turn 3 as Antonelli and Mayer in the Mercedes separate George Russell and Norris. So in this situation, if Russell doesn't get ahead of Callie Mayer, Lando Norris can win this championship with the 7-point difference. And there's still so much more of this race to go, but we are within a second, so Russell is going to be able to have an opportunity to go after both Mercedes as we look to see who else has gone into the pits as of right now. So we're right in the middle of the pit window. It's a handful of us have already gone into the pits. We're going back down the order. The two Mercedes separating Lando Norris and George Russell. So this is a photo finish like I could remember back in 2021 between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. We're going to be moving on to lap 16, where Russell is finally able to make an attempt on Callie and Mayer as Antonelli is putting pressure on Lando Norris. Leclerc up ahead, making a move on Aiden Jackson, our teammate, who's looking to perform well for the final race of the season. So we make an easy move on Callie Mayer to the outside of turn 5. We're going to have DRS because we're close enough to Antonelli to catch up to Antonelli and Norris. So now Russell is in a championship winning position. He could sit in P5, but he wants more. I wanted more. I wanted to see if we can get on the podium. Back end stepping out a little bit because we're getting a little bit too curious. We're trying to get as close as we can to Antonelli and Norris to try to overtake Norris. I know we can win the championship right now, but I wanted to go that extra mile. Side by side, Antonelli and Norris as Antonelli hits the curb on the inside of turn 7. Norris will be able to make a move. It's going to be 3 wide into turn 9. Oh, so close. No contact as of yet. And Antonelli yields through with Norris and Russell ahead. Russell making a 2-position overtake into Sector 3. As we're back on board with him, as he's looking at the rear wing of that Red Bull and really regretting not having the power to push through turn 9. It could have been a very bad situation with all 3 of us, but we're going to be resetting on lap 18 and trying again. Lando Norris on board with him as he's trying to chase down George Russell. You can see we're saving battery for Sector 2, and that's where this battle is going to get very interesting. On board with Antonelli, lap 19, Norris ahead, Russell ahead just by another 3/10. So you can see the onboard from Antonelli. You can see the pressure that they're both putting on George Russell. Norris on the inside of Russell, Antonelli on the inside of Norris. Nowhere to go for Antonelli, and there's contact between him and the Red Bull. There is damage, but where is it? We heard the contact as we stayed to the outside of turn 6, and we are peeling away. You can see the time Norris about a second away. You can see the front end plates on both the Red Bull and the Mercedes. I'm nervous just trying to commentate this. Both of the Red Bull and Mercedes front wings have no front wing end plate. You can see it there on the center of the screen on the right side. And that is going to be a very bad day for Lando Norris and his championship opportunity. He had the championship, he just didn't need to make contact, and they're both coming into the pits. This is a nightmare for Lando Norris. This is a nightmare for Antonelli, for Mercedes. Mercedes is in a Constructors' Championship battle against Ferrari, and they do not need this right now. As George Russell comfortably sits on the podium in P3, lap 20 of 29. He just needs to cruise to the end of this race and win that championship as we go to our F1 commentators for one final time.
It's been a roller coaster of a night, and with just 10 laps to go, we're on the verge of crowning George Russell as the 2026 world champion. Earlier, a daring three-wide battle into turn 6 in sector 2 saw Antonelli and Norris make contact, ending both of their races and crushing Norris's hopes of snatching the championship from Russell.
Their races aren't necessarily over, and they still have a chance to make up some ground and finish in the points, but it doesn't seem likely with the remaining compounds available to them. They're currently outside the points, and George has a solid gap over Callie Mayer, keeping him on the podium by the end of the race.
We talked before the race, but I'm glad to see Will Buxton back in the commentary box before this race ends. How's the race been for you tonight, friend?
It's been an emotional roller coaster for everyone in the pit lane. I was watching the incident between Norris and Antonelli before coming up here, and it really showed the emotions of the Red Bull pit crew. All the hard work put in throughout the season was just thrown away after one mistake, and it wasn't even Norris's fault.
It seemed like the fault should have been on Antonelli, being on the inside of the corner with nowhere to go. Even though Russell left enough room, Norris might have been a bit too eager to stay ahead of him. In the end, with the incident ruled as just a racing incident, teams aren't happy to see that from the FIA, especially when it impacts their chances at a championship win.
Being a Formula One steward has its downsides, like having every angle of an on-track incident, making the final judgment call, and then facing backlash from teams, fans, and even drivers once the decision is announced. I don't think that incident, no matter the ruling, would have affected the championship outcome, since Lando Norris would need to finish at least 2 places ahead of Russell to take the title. And unless George retires, that's just not going to happen.
The championship standings would shift with Leclerc's current position. If he finishes the race in first, he'll move up to second in the final standings, pushing Norris down to third. That means it's on Norris to make up as much ground as possible to hang on to his spot in the championship.
There's not much left to chase besides the top spot in the driver standings, but don't forget the constructors' battle between Ferrari and Mercedes. Mayer finishing in the top 5 still gives Mercedes a shot against Ferrari, who currently have both drivers in the top 10.
That's an important detail to remember for the rest of this race, as it looks like Russell is closing in on his teammate Aiden Jackson, who's rumoured not to be signed with Konnersport next season.
There's only so much time before something leaks. The news broke before the race weekend, but has it been a distraction for him? His current position on track says otherwise, as he's clearly proving himself to Konnersport by basically saying, "You decided not to sign me for next season, so now I'm going to perform at my best and show you that was a mistake."
Thank you so much for being here, Will. And we hope to see you again next season. You're absolutely right. Jackson has been with Konnersport from the very beginning, but now the team is heading in a new direction, and he's finally free from the shackles of the team that gave him the chance to stay in the sport. This final performance has proven not only to Konnersport, but to other teams that he belongs on this grid. He deserves a seat with a top team like Mercedes, McLaren or Ferrari, a rumour that's been circulating in the paddock for a long time. With George closing in on him, the challenge ahead is set to be even tougher.
I have no doubt Jackson will be on the grid next season, and it's a curious thing to wonder where he'll end up, even though the season is nearly over. The start of the next one is just around the corner. It's going to be very exciting since a bunch of us will be heading to both Silverstone and Bahrain for pre-season testing before returning to Australia for the season opener.
Pre-season testing is always a blast every year, but unfortunately I won't be there this time. I will, however, be in Australia, so be sure to fill me in when you get the opportunity. Once again, I'm David Croft, or Crofty as you all know me, joined by James Hinchcliffe throughout your 2026 season, and we'll see you in Australia to kick off a new season of 2027.
All right, I promise you I am a lot calmer than I was a few minutes ago with the 3-wide incident in the chicane in Sector 2. Lap 23 of 29, George Russell sitting on the podium currently, looking to put pressure onto his teammate of Aiden Jackson as we go ahead and move on for the final lap of the season, since the championship standing would not matter. George Russell is finishing this race. Lando Norris put as much pressure as he could trying to get back into the points, but that is not going to be enough. George Russell, World Championship 2026 with Konnersport. Konnersport is going to be hitting the double whammy as they made it, what was it, 6 years in the F1 storyline for Breaking Point. 6 years in the making for them to collect the constructors and getting a driver in the driver's standings. So it's going to be 2 trophies on that Konnersport shelf by the end of this season, as we're in Sector 3, Turn 9. We tried to put the pressure on Aiden Jackson, but we couldn't do it with our tire life. And that's going to be our podium as we move forward to the race winner, Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. Maybe in the Ferrari next season, I do not know. But he's going to be winning today's race. There's Aiden Jackson finishing 2nd place, and then our championship winner, George Russell.
Oh, you are my hero! You're my hero! You've done it! All of that work has come down to this, and you are the world champion. Great stuff!
Great job, guys. I drove my heart out.
It's certainly been an incredible year for Formula One, and our drivers have pushed themselves this season, making it one of the most compelling years of racing in history. There can only be one champion, however, and here they are now, our new Formula One World Drivers' Champion. The man from Monaco will win again! Charles Leclerc takes the checkered flag! Plenty to get stuck into afterwards, but now the podium for our top 3 drivers. Back on top once again, please welcome our winner, Charles Leclerc. Well, what a year it has been. What a story we have seen. I've been Alex Jakes on the microphone. Thanks to the whole team here. We'll see you next year when Formula 2 returns.
Yeah, not Formula 2, Formula 1. We're going to go ahead and change back to Crofty for Season 3. And, yeah, this race was a very stressful and emotional race. After the pit strategy, I was really worried that we were gonna mess up on the double stop. I thought I had enough room back behind Aiden Jackson for the perfect double stop, but we apparently both had issues, so that put us behind the Mercedes cars and behind Lando Norris. We were 3 wide coming into that middle sector. And the contact, we could hear the contact. I mentioned it earlier. We could hear the contact between Andrea Kimi Antonelli and Lando Norris. And that ruined Lando's race. That ruined his opportunity at a championship with Red Bull. That just probably destroyed Red Bull when that happened. And all of the weight on George Russell's shoulders were lifted as soon as he realized that they went into the pits to replace their front wings. Here are the final standings for the season. Driver standings claimed by George Russell. Charles Leclerc stealing at P2 from Lando Norris. Aiden Jackson sitting P4 ahead of Callie Mayer. He actually broke 200 points on the season. So by 14 points, Charles Leclerc comes in second behind George Russell. Lando Norris sits in P3 at 206. And our top five, Callie Mayer leads her own teammate at 156 to 125, and then the rest of the grid are below 100. And what I really wanted to look at, I didn't really pay attention to during the race, was the constructors' standings. Mercedes holds out on top ahead of Ferrari, 281 points to 254. And Red Bull drops down to fourth. And then we have Williams, McLaren, Aston Martin, and then Ford Racing Bulls, the only team to not score points on the season. They're going to have a tough time transitioning their team over to, I believe, Maserati. And 428 points on the season for Konnersport. I don't think we're going to be able to match that next season with our regulation issues and our limitations. But this was a great season. I'm super stoked for next season. I can't wait to see you there. We'll see you guys in the next one.